These are the high school sisters, Molly and Cleo, and the two are polar opposites when it comes to personality. Molly is the extroverted and most popular girl in school, while her younger sister Cleo is introverted and has little to no friends. Because of this, Cleo feels invisible and unseen.
And the unseen.
At her chemistry class, Cleo puts her headphones on to enjoy the music and forget all about the world around her. After class, Cleo is still listening to the music when her chemistry teacher, Mr. Perkins, approaches to hand her the result of her exam. Surprisingly, Cleo got a full mark. Perkins finds this impressive, but he doesn't like Cleo's semester chemistry project, which is about turning a papaya into a battery. For this reason, he just rejects it, frustrating Cleo. When Cleo asks why, Perkins tells her she has potential and can do a lot better than just turning a papaya into a battery for her semester project. He tells her to engage the world and do something much more relevant. For this reason, Perkins assigns her a more difficult and challenging experiment. He gives her a mystery substance to figure out what it is and then transform it to its original crystal state. To motivate her, Perkins tells Cleo her full mark at the exam is only half of her overall class grade, frustrating Cleo some more. That is because if she doesn't get the experiment done, she'll fail.
And how am I supposed to do that?
Following this, Cleo talks to her only friend, George, and complains about her assigned experiment. Shortly after, the boy named Carter approaches the two. He's George's best friend and a player on the school's soccer team. He also likes Cleo, so he asks her if the two of them can study together for their next chemistry quiz. Cleo thinks Carter is just using her so he can get a better grade, so she shuts him down. But Carter doesn't take it seriously. He just says he'll just be in the lab in case she has a change of heart. Afterward, Molly and her boyfriend, Coog, invite Cleo to hang out with them, but Cleo says no, not liking to hang out with her sister's friends. Shortly after, Cleo comes home only to find her parents are traveling. While saying goodbye to their two daughters, the couple give most of their attention to Molly and wish her luck on her upcoming lacrosse game. Then the two briefly tell Cleo to just stay loose regarding her studies before they leave. That night, Molly throws a party at their home and invites all of her friends. Meanwhile, Cleo is all alone working on the science experiment Perkins assigned her when a moth flies nearby. Cleo tries scaring it away, but she ends up spilling chemicals on the solution she's trying to prepare. The moth flies through the steam coming from the solution and becomes invisible, intriguing Cleo. Cleo gets distracted from her doing her experiment and puts the moth in a jar, but the moth starts fluttering her wings violently. Cleo freaks out and drops the jar, breaking it. The moth flies away and Cleo chases her when everybody else is enjoying the party. Eventually, the moth gets away, disappointing Cleo. Following the party, Cleo tells George about how she made the moth invisible, but George doesn't believe her and tells her to just get some sleep. Shortly after, Molly is preparing to go to bed when the invisible moth returns from the bathroom window. Just as it flies near the light, the moth dies and falls into Molly's antacid. After the clueless Molly drinks her antacid with the dead moth in it, she notices something weird about the taste, but she dismisses it and goes to sleep afterwards at 12 a.m. The next morning is Halloween. Molly wakes up and gets out of bed, unaware she's become totally invisible. She's about to start her morning routine and brush her teeth when she sees herself invisible in the mirror. This terrifies Molly, causing her to scream for help. Cleo rushes to check on her sister and is shocked. She can hear Molly's voice, but she can't see her. Molly is in denial. She thinks this is a dream and washes her face, hoping that she will snap awake and her life will be normal again. But to no avail. She puts a towel on her head, hoping that it will make her visible again. But it's a futile struggle as nothing changes. This terrifies the two sisters, causing them both to scream for help. Cleo then realizes that the moth she made invisible had something to do with it. She asks Molly if she touched or swallowed it, but Molly doesn't have a clue. Molly then retraces her steps and recalls the weird-tasting water she drank in the bathroom. Just then, Coog stops by in a cowardly bear Halloween costume to pick Molly up for school, but Cleo covers up for her and tells him she's sick, forcing him to leave. Cleo then tells her sister to stay home and call in sick, but Molly says no since this is Halloween. She can't miss this important school day since all of her friends are counting on her to show up for the lacrosse game.
Just lay low, call in sick.
Molly then puts on her blue dress and decides to put on some makeup. However, the dress becomes invisible as well, frustrating Molly. Molly then has another idea. Given that her sister resembles her in terms of skin color and height, Molly decides to have Cleo pretend to be her at school. To hide Cleo's identity, Molly has her wear the blue dress and a mask to make sure nobody recognizes her. After the two leave, the invisible Molly drives the car since Cleo doesn't have a license. The two are on their way to school when an amazed lady sees Cleo in the passenger seat with no one driver next to her. Cleo says hello and jokingly tells the lady that her invisible sister is driving. The lady then dismisses it as a self-driving car before Molly continues the drive to school.
Sorry, just talking to my invisible sister.
At school, Cleo feels nervous and fears that she can't pull this off, but Molly tells her to just relax and walk like her. Surprisingly, the costume works, as everybody mistakes Cleo for Molly. One of Molly's friends, Nikki, walks up to Cleo. At first, Nikki is suspicious but immediately recognizes Cleo as Molly and warmly greets her. Cog approaches Cleo, and thinking she's Molly, he decides to give her a kiss. But Cleo pushes him away, saying she has an infectious illness. This disappoints Coog as he watches her walk away. Cleo then gets a call from George, who notes that she called in sick. He then comments about how Molly's costume sucks, unaware that he's looking at Cleo. Cleo brushes it off and tells George to cover up for her at Perkins' class. Molly then has Cleo attend the geometry class for her, where Cleo finds out how much her sister's grades suck.
C-?
Following this, Molly has Cleo attend the pep circle that she arranged with her lacrosse teammates. At this circle, Nikki tells Cleo to speak and say something emotionally meaningful about herself to boost their teammates' morale for their upcoming game. At first, Cleo tries to be Molly and talks about how much her dress sucks, but Nikki insists that she talks. Cleo stands up, and this time, she decides to be herself instead of being Molly. She opens up about how she truly feels invisible and unseen by some of the people around her. But then she brushes it off and tells Molly's friends how awesome they are. Upon hearing this, the invisible Molly is deeply moved and realizes what her sister is feeling. Molly's friends are impressed. They stand up and applaud Cleo for her small, sincere speech. Meanwhile, Molly uses her invisibility and goes to the lab to secretly steal a microscope, just as her sister asked her. She is trying her best to remain unnoticed when she overhears Carter talking to George about how much he likes Cleo.
What's Cleo's deal?
This amazes Molly. She quickly takes the microscope and hides it in Cleo's locker. Shortly after, Molly drags Cleo away from the massage party to tell her that Carter likes her and advise her to date him. However, Cleo is not interested in dating anyone at all and excuses herself to get back to the massage party. However, Molly doesn't take no for an answer and decides to do what's best for her sister. She is walking in the corridor when Coog rushes to the bathroom. There, Coog takes off his cowardly bear costume so he can use the toilet to relieve himself. Molly takes advantage and steals Coog's costume. She wears it and meets up with Carter and George. Pretending to be Cleo, Molly talks in a warm and friendly way to Carter. This leaves George and Carter shocked since they've never seen Cleo act or talk like this. Molly's bear costume starts becoming invisible. She panics and is about to rush out when she asks Carter to school's Halloween party tonight. This shocks George and Carter more, since Cleo has always been dismissive to Carter. But Carter says yes anyway. Molly then runs out to keep her invisibility a secret, while Carter is confused by Cleo's mixed attitude toward him.
I'll see you there tonight. It's a date.
Molly then runs into Cleo and, in private, she tells Cleo that she got her a date with Carter, disappointing Cleo. During this time, George is about to leave when he notices Cleo talking to someone in the room. Walking into the room, George freaks out when he sees the disappearing bear suit, thinking it's a headless bear. He calls Cleo Molly and asks her what's going on. Cleo tells him the truth about Molly turning invisible, but Coog interrupts and asks where his bear costume is. Pretending to be Molly, Cleo says she never saw it and immediately avoids him. George and the two sisters are about to leave the building when Perkins stops them. Mistaking Cleo for Molly, Perkins asks if Cleo is okay since she missed his class. He also mentions that he assigned her the challenging experiment because he thinks she's a bright student with great potential. This warms Cleo's heart. While pretending to be Molly, Cleo assures Perkins that she won't disappoint him.
She really doesn't want to disappoint you.
After their school day, Cleo decides to go home to work on making her sister visible again, but Molly tells her this can wait and has Cleo play the lacrosse game on her behalf. Cleo puts on her sister's gear for the game, but she feels extremely nervous. The invisible Molly calms her down and tells her what to remember whenever she feels afraid in the game. The match starts, but Cleo sucks at it. Nikki passes her the ball, but it hits Cleo's head, causing her to fall flat on her pack. That makes it easy for the other team to score the first goal. Thinking Cleo is Molly, Nikki tells her off, but Cleo makes an excuse and says it's just the cold. Molly reminds Cleo to play a bit better to impress the college scouts who are watching. Just then, an idea strikes Molly's mind. As the game continues, Molly uses her invisibility to her advantage and tackles the players, making it easy for Cleo to play and help Nikki score a few goals. After the first half ends in a tie, it's time out. Molly has Cleo look at the college scouts to remind her to play well and impress them. After all, Molly's future depends on how well Cleo plays. Hearing this, Cleo musters up her courage and gathers the team around for a pep talk. The second half starts afterward, but there are only 30 seconds left until the game ends. As Cleo takes the ball, she manages to go through the players without Molly's help and reaches the goalkeeper. Everybody, including Molly, is breathlessly waiting for Cleo to score, and she finally does, earning her team the win and impressing the college scouts who are looking for talented players. Cleo's teammates carry her on their shoulders and cheer for her, calling her Molly. This makes the invisible Molly feel invisible and unseen for the first time. Even more, she becomes a bit jealous of her sister. Following this, Cleo and George get back to working, making Molly visible. Analyzing Molly's cells through the microscope, the two find out that they only have until 12 a.m. before Molly's body fully digests the invisible moth, making Molly invisible forever. George decides to redo the experiment Cleo did to make the moth invisible at the school lab. This will help come up with an antidote that will make Molly visible again. However, they still need a moth for the antidote. The cemetery is the best place to find a moth, so the sisters go there. After looking, they find one and chase it to a high tree. Molly is climbing to catch it when she falls into the swamp. After failing to catch the moth, Molly has had it and despairs of ever becoming visible before she storms off. Cleo gets worried and panics as she looks for her invisible sister in the dark cemetery. Eventually, Cleo gives up and sits up on the stairs, feeling emotional. She opens up about how she's always felt jealous of her sister's popularity
I pushed you away.
and of the attention she gets. This attention made Cleo feel invisible. Cleo is breaking into tears when Molly, who overheard her, comes back with the moth in a jar. This relieves Cleo to the core, so she gives her sister a warm hug, realizing how much she loves her. Shortly after, the sisters meet up with George outside the school building. However, the building is locked and the guard is inside. Molly uses her invisibility to her advantage and sneaks inside to scare the guard out of the building. The trio then goes to the lab to redo the experiment. Fortunately, they manage to make the solution and succeed in making the moth invisible. Now they need to analyze the solution to make the antidote. However, the solution is too complex for Cleo and George to analyze. George realizes the only one who can analyze it is Carter, much to Cleo's disbelief. Luckily, Molly knows where to find him.
I know just where to find him.
As the three go to the Halloween party the school arranged, Cleo gets a bit insecure. She truly likes Carter, but she doesn't want him to know it, fearing that he might laugh at her. Molly reassures her if this happens, then Carter is the one to blame. not her. Walking into the party, a worried Coog approaches Cleo and asks if Molly is planning on breaking up with him since he didn't see her in the party. Cleo reassures him that Molly still loves him and promises that Molly will join him shortly. Just then, the invisible Molly talks to Coog and assures him she's not dumping him, blowing Coog's already blown mind. Cleo tells him to focus and has the group split up to find Carter. Eventually, Cleo finds him in a big honey jar, thinking Cleo would show up in the bear costume. When he confronts her about showing up late without costume, Cleo admits to him that she likes him, but she never thought that he actually liked her, which Carter finds understandable.
I want to talk to you about a lot of things.
Cleo then asks for his help and takes him to a barn where Coog, George, and Molly are. Once Carter hears the invisible Molly's voice, he blacks out. Cleo and the others don't have time for Carter to black out. After they wake him up, Cleo fills him in about the situation and the solution she and George made. Now it's 3 hours until midnight when Molly's body fully digests the moth and becomes invisible forever. Following Carter's instructions, the group gets all of the necessary ingredients and works together to create the antidote. Finally, the antidote is ready just 15 seconds before midnight. Molly is about to drink it when Perkins, the organizer of the party, knocks on the barn's door, telling the kids they're in big trouble. At this moment, Molly decides not to drink it. Instead, Molly spreads flour all over herself to make herself seen to the angry Perkins when he walks in. She tells him Cleo made her invisible for her science project and urges him to see how special Cleo is.
You have to know how special she is.
Noticing it's already 12 a.m., Molly drinks her antidote. However, it fails to make her visible. Cleo thinks this is because Molly drank it after 12 a.m. Mr. Perkins can't get his head around how Cleo experimented on her sister and made her invisible. After some thinking, Cleo realizes her sister drank the antacid along with the moth the night before. Based on that, Cleo realizes that the antidote is missing the antacid. Luckily, Molly has the antacid on her, so Cleo has her drink it. As soon as Molly does, she finally becomes visible. Now, the problem is finally solved, and everybody is happy. In the aftermath, Perkins tells Cleo he's proud of her. He then asks her to share these experiments with the Scientists Association where he works, to which Cleo happily agrees. Carter then asks Cleo if she wants to dance, and Cleo says yes.
But do you want to dance?
Yes.
A month later, Cleo shares this experiment with the Applied Scientists Association. Her parents and Perkins are proud. Later, Cleo decides to make friends and hangs out with Carter along with Molly and her friends. Even more interestingly, she seems much happier. That is because she learned a valuable lesson after this experiment. She learned to bravely show the world who she is in order to stop feeling invisible.